First up, Fun with Feature Flags by Desy Kristianti. Desy is a front-end engineer at Prolific, an online platform that connects researchers with instant, high-quality global research participants. She loves building a user-centric product and making a real impact. She's a golden retriever pup mom, love that, a big foodie, also love that, and a collector of cute stickers, also love that. With that, Desy, if you want to go ahead and kick us off, excited for your presentation.
Lovely. Thank you, Sierra, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Desy Kristianti Presents Fun with Feature Flags. Just a little bit of introduction to kick us off. I'm Indonesian, but I live in the UK, and I am a senior software engineer at Prolific. I'm a front-end engineer, and Prolific is a global online research platform. So if you want to do any research, you can come to Prolific and find any type of audience you want. And I'm on Twitter at DESS Chris. So feel free to tag me or reach out if you want to discuss anything related to my bio or the talk. Yes, there should be closed captioning if you press CC at the bottom. So what are we here for? Today I'm going to talk about feature flags, what they are, why would we use them, and how do we implement them? Do we use a feature flag management tool or do we do it yourself? And how do you implement them with success? How do you make sure it's embedded into the product development process? And what are some challenges to be aware of? So, why should we care about feature flags? Does any of these problems sound familiar to you? First one, when you release a change, you're so confident about it, and then accidentally you introduce new bugs. One of my ex-managers used to say, when you kill a bug, 10 come to the funeral, which is so true. It's the story of my life. Um, or when you release a new feature, but then actually the users don't really like it that much, or the users don't know how to use it, they don't understand it. Or when you release a change and something goes wrong, you need to switch it off immediately or roll back immediately. But maybe you have a long process to roll back and it's not straightforward. Or when you're developing a new feature and you're just accumulating changes and you end up with a huge PR or a huge integration branch. Well, feature flags can help. So what are they? Feature flags enable you to toggle a feature or a functionality without having to deploy a code change. So there is usually like an admin page or a management page where you can see all the feature flags, what status they're on or are they off. So when you click on or when you toggle it to off, it will change immediately in the product. You don't have to change something in the code. But how do you do that? So when you develop the feature, you wrap the code inside the feature flag. There is a little example here which just says, if flag ABC is enabled, render the new model, else render the old model. It's just a very simple example from the front end. So feature flags can have an on and off state, but they don't always have to be a Boolean. So if you needed to have 3 different states, let's say you want the feature to be shown in a certain way for users in America, and a second way for users in Europe, and a third way for everybody else. So you can have 3 states of the feature flag, as well as for the on state, and then as well as the off state where the feature doesn't even show up. So you can set up the feature flag to be a numeric flag, and each number corresponds to each variation. And you would just have more of these if else statements or conditional statements. Feature flags can be used on both the front end and the back end. Okay, so that sounds good, but why would I use them? This is a bit of a penny moment. So why would you use them? Incremental rollout of a feature. This is something that is part of the development process at Prolific. So when we roll out a new feature, we normally roll out to, let's say, only 10% of the users or 15% of the users. So we would enable the feature flag only for 10 or 15% of the users, and then wait a couple days, see how it goes. Are there any bugs? Are there any major issues, major complaints? And if not, we go ahead and continue releasing to say 30%, and then 50%, and so on and so forth. So we roll it out not in one go, but step by step. And then safe release of a feature. In case if you need to roll back, or in case you need to turn it off, you could literally just turn off the feature flag, and then that'll be it gone. And this actually this actually happened this morning. We released a feature last week, and this is a feature that doesn't really get used by so many users. So it takes a long time to accumulate feedback to see that people are using it. And we got a bug report this morning saying that it is not working, and we're like, oh crap. Well, is it easy to turn it off? Well, it is under the feature flag, so we just turn it off, and that's it. We don't need to worry about however long it's going to take us to fix the bug. It's off now, so people are not going to be it's not going to concern them anymore. Next, experimentation, A/B testing, beta testing. If you have, let's say, 3 different prototypes that you want to test, that you feel like these are all good, but I don't know which one the user is going to like the most. So you could, again, split up into 3 different groups and show each different variation to different groups using the feature flags. Also, safe deployment of the front end and back end separately. So sometimes if you're working on a feature and if you're a front end developer and the back end part is not ready yet, it doesn't mean that you can't progress the front end part. Sometimes there are parts that you have to mock out, and in the meantime, if you develop under a feature flag, it enables you to, or it encourages you to just merge the PR, knowing that it's off in production, so nobody's going to see the incomplete feature. I hope that makes sense. So if that all sounds good, you're in. How do I get started? Or as this meme says, why are you waving a white flag? I'm surrendering to fun. How do you do that? So there are a few feature flag management tools, third-party, that you can just use, but you can also do it yourself. So in this slide, you would use third-party tools when you don't have the capacity to build your own tool. Like, yes, we want to use feature flags. We want to use it now. We don't have time to build our own tool. So let's just use something that's already out there. And you want to take advantage of the features that they have on offer. Oh, they enable you to experiment. They enable you to measure the result of the experimentation, and so on and so forth. That's great. I don't have time to build this. I want to use this tool. However, you are also restricted to what features they have available. So if there is something that you need it for, but the tool doesn't have, that's just a restriction that you have to work with. Or sometimes some of these features might not be included in the core package, so you might have to pay extra for them. So that's just something to be mindful of. So when would you do it yourself? When you have the resources to build the capabilities. You want to use feature flags, but I'm not too worried about using them now. We have the time and we have the resources. Go ahead. Or if the tools out there don't have an SDK for your programming language, there's so many frameworks and programming languages these days that, third-party tools might not have an SDK for all of them. So you have to do it yourself. Or it could make sense when your product already has an admin tool, for example, to manage users or to manage, I don't know, any settings, any configuration for the product. You could just add another section or another page to control feature flags. So it's less of an investment to build, a new tool. You just make it part of the existing admin tool, and that would make sense to do it yourself. However, it does become another product to maintain. I mean, if there is a bug or if a new feature request comes up being like, oh, I can't, at the moment the feature flags are only Boolean. I want it to support more than two variations. Um, well, it needs engineering resources then to build these extra features when you could spend these resources building on, working on the actual product and not the internal tool. But uh, that's a middle a balance that you have to find. And some companies might afford this, or some companies might just say, well, I'll just pay for an external product, they can do it then. So that's something to keep in mind. Cool, you say cool. How can we implement this successfully then? There are a few things here, a few good things. I'll share the slides afterwards on my Twitter anyway, so you can refer back to these slides. But first of all, unified naming convention. The name should be clear of what the feature should be. Sometimes there is a description field as well, so you can explain if it's not clear from the name. And then also clear ownership and access controls. So which team owns this feature flag? So if there are any issues with it, or somebody needs to check a bug that might be related to this feature, they know which team to go to. And access control, who has permissions to turn it on and off? Can anyone do it, or is it only certain people from certain teams? So use labels or tags. You can tag them to the page or the feature or the team. And temporary or permanent, this is very important as well. If you're just using feature flags to safely release, it would be a temporary feature flag, because at some point you will be confident that, yeah, this feature is all good, no bugs. Everybody's using it already, so it has to be cleaned up. Or it could be a permanent feature flag that just enables people to show different things to different types of users. Fallback value, this is what happens if the tool cannot be accessed. Like if you're using a third-party tool, or even sometimes if you use an internal tool, if you can't access the value of the feature flag at any point in time, you should have a fallback value so that it should still show the correct state. Because sometimes the fallback value isn't always the the false state. It could be flag equals true is the default. So you should always set that up in your code. It should be granular. So if there are two functionalities, perhaps from the same feature even, it might make sense sometimes to have them as two separate flags, so that if there is an issue with one of them, you don't have to you don't have to turn off both of them. You could only just turn off the one, and the other one is still running, so it's not affected. Last but not least, test all the states of the feature flag. This is something that I'm guilty of sometimes. Like I would build a new feature, put it under feature flag, and then I forgot to test what happens when the flag is off, and not realizing that I've changed something, or I've put in a new method that runs in both states. So always test both states of the flag, or all the states even. What else can we do so that it's part of your product development process? Say when you're creating an epic in Jira or whatever issues management process platform that you have, maybe create a feature flag for each of the epic. So each functionality or each big feature should have a feature flag. Even maybe if it would be useful, create a ticket in Jira to set up the flag. I mean, it's only a one story point probably, but it still needs to be done. And if this is a new process that you're not used to yet, just create a ticket to help you get used to it being part of the process. And then again, write the test for all on and off states of the flag. And don't forget to clean up the feature flag, because again, for temporary feature flags, sometimes some people are guilty of, oh, the feature has been released, whatever, I have new features to work on, and then you just end up with 10, 15, maybe more old feature flags that was created sometimes maybe 1 year ago, and it's still there. So we usually set ourselves a target of, depending on the feature, it could be like one sprint after. If we are confident with it, we clean up, or it could be 1 month. Just depends on the size of feature. So schedule, I always create a ticket to clean up the feature flag and the old code in the backlog. And sometimes when I know when we are ready to review it, I would just schedule it in a future sprint. And last but not least, ship under feature flags by default. It shouldn't be a conversation of, should we do it? Should we do it for this feature? Like, just do it. It's not that much effort. Well, I think it's not. I think it's not. I think it's worthwhile, the effort. So just do it as part of the product development process. So I've talked about all the good things, but surely I want to balance this viewpoint. What are some of the challenges as well then? First of all, maintaining multiple versions of code. It could be a very annoying thing to do, because sometimes, especially if the change is quite large, it should show this in the old state, and it should show something else in the new state. There could be a lot of methods that need to be changed, or CSS classes that need to be changed, but you have to maintain both because the off state needs to work. And then sometimes if a bug arises from before you added the new feature, you have to make the fix on both off state and on state. So it could be tedious. Next, cleaning up old feature flags, something I've mentioned before. You could easily accumulate, 5, 10 feature flags if you don't review them. So it could add up as tech debt. And when the management tool fails, if the tool is unreachable for any reason, and the user is in the middle of creating something, using your product, it could interrupt their flow. So it's very important to set up a fallback variation within your code itself. And last but not least, don't just rely on feature flags. I think that's something that some people have a bad habit of, there's a feature flag, so why do I have to test everything? Or sometimes we don't test as rigorously as we would. So we should still write comprehensive tests and not just rely on, our users are going to be testing it for us anyways. You should also still be able to roll back. Rolling back shouldn't be a painless process, even though, yes, you could just turn off the feature flag, but what if, you might still need to roll back. That should be a process that's easily doable as well. So hope that sounds good to you. This is fun with feature flags. Just to conclude, some key points. Feature flags enable you to toggle a feature or functionality at the flick of a switch. Like literally, you can just turn it on and off. And then they can improve your releasing experience by allowing you to roll out incrementally, allowing you to roll back easily by switching off the feature flag, and experiment and do some user testing. And last but not least, they should be embedded into your product development process. That's all. I hope you had fun with feature flags. Feel free to reach out or let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Desy, so much. I personally feel like I related to a lot of those, particularly the cleanup. There's a lot of feature flags on a particular project that I'm always looking to see if they're still in use, and the answer is often no, because they have not been cleaned up.
Yeah.
So relatable, helpful. Thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you.